Make America great again means keep America's preeminence. And to keep preeminence, they've got to go toe-to-toe with China in one way or the other. And we know how quickly that could go bad. Everything that happens that doesn't make any sense, it all leads back to an American versus China conflict. That's why gold is going up. Everybody and their uncle is stockpiling. Companies are stockpiling. Countries are stockpiling. If you're competing, you've got to be the smartest. And that means you've got to have more energy than anybody else, which is what Trump is talking about, energy dominance. People in government, they might not care about you and me, and they care about them keeping their power. And for that, they need to be first in AI. AI will be its own economic boom, and it will suck in all these commodities. Zinc, aluminium, nickel, they're all going up the same. There's going to be a huge change in the next 10, 15 years, and a vast amount of opportunity to be missed or to be taken. Gold is for war, and it's not getting any more friendlier out there, is it?
World War III is already happening.
This is a house of cards, and it is in the process of collapsing right now.
You're going to see an economic crash, the likes of which we've never seen.
Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. Today I'm joined once again by Clem Chambers, CEO of Online Blockchain and a senior contributor at Forbes.com and Seeking Alpha. He's launched a new FN, which is a place for private investors, and shares no fluff market takes on his YouTube channel. We're diving into what matters now in the markets, what most people are missing, and how to position yourself when the narrative begins to crack. Now, his famous saying is, Bitcoin is for flight, gold is for war. How are you feeling about the precious metals prices right now, my friend?
Well, delirious. I mean, before the prices took off, when I was loading up because I could see it coming, I got so much of it that I was worrying me, because I'm a diversified portfolio of a risk guy, and going not quite all in, but it felt like it was really not. It's not my style at all. I'm a value investor, not a precious metal guy. I'm not a gold bug. I've steered clear of gold and silver for most of my life, but I couldn't stay out of it because everything said it's going to go ballistic, and of course it's gone ballistic. And silver's hit my target, so I've lightened up on silver. I've flipped half of my silver into gold. Gold's just going to, by the looks of it, keep on grinding up because of, gold is for war, and it's not getting any more friendlier out there, is it? And platinum and palladium, well, as I said on your show, I think all this, tree hugging is going away, because the energy is all going to go to AI, and that it's not going to be going to electric cars. They're going to say, yeah, you need petrol and diesel in those things. Electricity is going to industry and to AI guys. You can use petrol. That's okay. Carry on. And they've already cancelled the cancellation of the internal combustion engine. And if you're going to clean up the mess of what's coming up next for the environment, you've got to have platinum and palladium. So they've gone ballistic and will probably keep on going ballistic. The only one that's run ahead, and if you don't care and want to hold for the next 10 years, why not keep it, is silver, which I feel will probably pull back some. It might go over 100, it might come back quite a long way. But if gold keeps grinding, everything follows gold. That's all you really need to know. It's all about gold. Gold is for war, and everything you hear in the world that doesn't really make a great deal of sense, just think this thought: China versus America, or rather America versus China. Okay, why doesn't Trump like windmills? It's because you can knock them out with a blooming shotgun. So what's the point of, you can't go into battle if your energy is coming from windmills, because they're just 50 cal the whole lot down in 10 minutes. So it's not a secure energy supply in conflict. So it's not because they're not, it's the cheapest form of energy out there, roughly speaking, even cheaper than coal in some areas. But it's totally fragile. And if you're going to go toe-to-toe in conflict with another country, you can't afford to have your energy supply, basically hanging out there in the wind, waving in the wind, quite literally. So, every time you hear something, you say, that doesn't make any sense. Just trace it back to the upcoming potential conflict between America and China. It's all about that. I mean, they don't want to put missile defense on Greenland because of the Russians. It's the Chinese. I mean, it's not the Russians they're worried about, it's the Chinese. And it's
I would probably say it's a little bit of both, though, because there's definitely a very large Russian nuclear contingent in the Arctic.
Yeah, but they're also a country with 150 million people with a $7,000 a head GDP, right? So that's like, 7 times 150, call that $1 trillion. against 27 trillion in America. Yes, of course, if a lunatic wants to take everybody with them, then that is an issue. And yes, why not protect yourself from Russia? But America's not going to go into a conflict with Russia. That's relatively clear. But it's relatively clear that America is jumping up and down about China, because make America great again means keep America's preeminence. Well, they're going to lose their preeminence real soon now at this rate, unless they turn it around. And that's what they're trying to do. And to keep preeminence, well, they've got to go toe to toe with China in one way or the other. And we know how quickly that could go bad.
You said a few things there, and you reminded me of a position that has flipped recently with Bill Gates, where he says something to the extent of, and I don't have any exact quotes, but it was something, well, we're not going to be able to solve the problem of global warming. Therefore, let's just go full steam ahead. And I think a lot of people chalk that up to big tech and the need for data centers and how they're going to have to essentially boil the oceans, as you say, in order to create artificial general intelligence. And you said something interesting about combustion engines, that they're now canceling the cancellation. And this is part of the reason why platinum and palladium are rising, because they use those in the catalytic converters, I presume. Can you just maybe expand a little bit on that? Because we watch these dystopian films in the future, Blade Runner, things like that, and there's still combustion engine vehicles in all of these depictions of the future. And I'm like, shouldn't they have, flying or hover cars, electric vehicles at that point? But maybe they really got it right. Maybe the futurists who are writing those scripts knew that the promise of EVs had its shortcomings, and I think you kind of stated that. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Well, there's nothing wrong with EVs, okay? And the point is they need electricity. And to have electricity, you need vast electrical infrastructure. And America doesn't have it. And Europe doesn't have it. In fact, probably nobody has it. So there's no good making everything cheaper and better that's electric if you can't fill the tank with electricity. And AI is an X factor demand on energy. Now, I heard somebody say, I was talking to some people in this area only 6 months ago, and I said, it's going to be a multiple of energy, of electricity required. And they kind of looked down their nose at me and they said, oh, maybe 50% more. And I said, surely you're talking about 1,000% more, i.e. 10x. And now I heard some experts talk about 2 to 4 times. Well, there's not 2 to 4 times the infrastructure. There's just about enough infrastructure to go around right now. And they're going to have to build it out massively. And they're going to have to use a lot of copper, which they don't have, etc. There's lots and lots of problems. So you go, right, we can't actually have all the electricity we need. So what doesn't need to use electricity? Well, cars. So yes, it would be nice if they were all running on electricity, but we haven't got enough. So yeah, guys, carry on using diesel. I think diesel is platinum and gasoline is palladium in the cat converters. Okay. So they will be building out these power stations, and it's going to go 10x. It is, because here's the thought, right? There is no second place in intelligence. If you're smarter than the other guy and you're not actually in a boxing ring, then you're going to win. Yeah. So the sort of AI that's already out there is just simply way more smarter than any living human that I know. So if you're competing or have a conflict at whatever economic layer that you're having it in, you're going to win if you've got more AI. So there's no second place, right? And people in government, they might not care about you and me, but they care about themselves. And they care about them keeping their power. And for that, they need to be first in AI. And for that, they need the electricity. And they need to boil the oceans. And they need to go into it. You could look at it as in this way. Look, there's a pyramid, economic pyramid. The ground floor is primary, and that's running around, clubbing bears, and doing a bit of agriculture, hunter-gathering, and all that good stuff. And then you go into secondary, which is basic industry, digging up iron ore, all that good stuff, making steel. And then you've got, a bit more high up the scale in secondary, making cars, all that good stuff, industry, yeah? Then you go into tertiary, which is services, getting your hair cut, watching a movie, all that good stuff, right? Then you get into quaternary, which is basically intelligence, information, education, all that good stuff, right? So you can fight a war there and nobody dies. In fact, you can fight a war in services and nobody dies. In fact, you can have a trade war at the secondary level and nobody dies. But then it falls down into the primary level and everybody dies. Right? So right now, they will be fighting in the quaternary, hacking into computers, ransomware, stealing IP. That's going on right now. And guess who's doing it? China and Russia against the West. That war is on. And if they start to lose it, well, maybe they start moving down the pyramid. But in any event, the smartest wins, and there's no second place. Right. So what have you got to do? You've got to be the smartest. And that means you've got to have more energy than anybody else, which is what Trump is talking about. We've got to have energy dominance, because energy dominance is AI dominance, and there's no second place in AI. And it all comes back to that. Oh, China, you can't have those chips anymore. Oh, whoops, you're making our chips. What are our chips being built on your country? Yeah, it's all about that conflict between America and China, and about America maintaining its global dominance, which it has probably even lost already, maybe, but it's definitely borderline. That's why all the panic is coming out of that administration, is that they realize got a lot of catching up to do, right? Because they can't make most of the stuff that American life requires. It's not made in America anymore. So, that is the struggle, and that is what's driving all this. And that's what's driving gold is for war. Yeah, Bitcoin is for flight, as you saw when they were going to go and blow up Iran again for killing all those protesters. Up went Bitcoin, because the Iranians were sending all their children to Paris. And before that, Venezuela. Up went Bitcoin. Venezuela happened. The Venezuelan said, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. Down it came again. So the model of gold is for war and Bitcoin is for flight is well in place. And all those things that break down from that, you just start at the top. Why are they doing that? I don't understand. What do they want Greenland for? Oh, China versus America. Missiles coming over the pole. Oh, I can see they've got a point there. If that is their model, if that is the big strategic, long-term strategic, which is, of course, the strategic fear or the strategic action is to struggle with China, you need it. If you're not going to struggle with China, you don't need it.
So the U.S. doesn't have many, as far as I know, they're not heavily reliant on like diesel power generation. Like they don't actually use oil for power-based generation, do they?
No, I mean, there's probably people that do, because normally there's all sorts of infrastructure in energy, like, oh, we need some energy. It's a very hot day. Oh, switch on that gas plant, or switch on that. I mean, they have power stations that are old jumbo jet engines. Mm-hmm. And they've got them in a shed. And when they need to have a sudden surge of energy, because, I don't know, the Super Bowl is on, they ring those guys up and say, we have some electricity. We'll pay through the nose for that. And they go, right, switch the jet engines on, electricity. So there's all sorts of crazy infrastructure in there. And I'm sure there's somebody burning kerosene for that. But no, that is not the issue. The issue is getting it around. It's the overall infrastructure. Not only is it the power stations, but it's the grid. So there's not enough grid. Well, there's just about enough grid. And there's just about enough electricity, and that's fine. I mean, back in 2000, they were browning out in LA because of all the server centers that were going in for the original internet. But they caught up, right? So they will catch up. It is almost a capitalist society still, so they will catch up. But it's the time it will take to do so that is the issue. And when they catch up, there'll be more catching up to do, and there'll be more catching up to do. So it will be, until further notice, a never-ending virtuous circle, or the opposite, to catch on and catch up and go forward in this cycle of conflict and AI. So it's a crossover between China versus America, or America versus China, and AI. So that is the road ahead. AI and America struggling for primacy.
How does America diversify its energy infrastructure? What's that going to look like? Is it going to be nuclear? Is it going to be renewables? How are they going to meet the 10x needs so that people can continue to make AI slop videos?
They're going to do everything. Absolutely everything. I mean, the point is, you might not be able to make AI slop videos because they keep all the AI to themselves. I mean, that's also something that could well happen. Yeah. But, it's going to be several multiples more electricity being generated over the next decade.
And at what point do people say to themselves, well, this is great that I can make these AI slop and I can modify myself with all the fancy face filters, but my electricity bill has now doubled because that really is the secret cost of that.
Don't think it works out like that, you see, because what happens is there's always a spare amount of capacity. Because if you take a data center, it goes from 60% to 90% energy needs, yeah, and maybe on once in a blue moon it will go to 99. Okay, so it's going between 60 and 90% depending on the time of year, the time of day, etc. Okay, and how much cooling they need to, blah blah blah. So there's this spare capacity. Well, that percentage might only be 5%, can be pushed out to other people or kept back or moved around. But if you multiply the overall requirement by 10, that 5% becomes a huge amount of energy, and people, the citizens don't need that much. So actually that will have a downward pressure on energy because it's going to be all about vast quantities of energy at the lowest possible price. So people don't need to worry about that. And the whole process is going to drive a massive economic boom and probably relatively high inflation. But, economic activity is going to go, off the handle.
So I don't really understand how you're saying that energy is going to be cheaper when it's going to be 10x in demand.
Well, because all the people that make it expensive have to get out of the blooming way, don't they? You don't have to wait 10 years to get a planning permission. You don't have an army of lawyers. You don't have to have huge number of people making sure that some cog doesn't go spastic. You don't have to get vast permissions to put in pylons, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because the country's saying, yeah, just build it. Yeah, I don't care. Just build it. Get on with it. Yeah, don't do that. No, do more of it. Yeah. And what you end up with is the base load going up a lot, maybe say 5 times as much energy, of which 90% is going to those people in AI. But that 10% is like 60 or 70% of what the old days was the whole country. Yeah. So the price of energy, if the supply will go up dramatically, maybe it won't go up fast enough initially for the first 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years for it not to have a negative impact on prices, and prices may well go up a lot. But at some point, when they start to catch up, you're going to have this excess of electricity, which will be a small percentage of what AI, for example, is taking. But as a share of consumer electricity demand, it's going to be a big chunk, and they'll want to sell it, and they'll compete to sell it. In a capitalist society, competition will do that for you. It might take some time. It might be lumpy and bumpy, and the prices might get pretty steep. But I mean, if you go to Europe and you're paying whatever you're paying in Europe, it's not because of the price of energy or the supply of energy or the demand for energy. It's because it's all slathered up with tax. Yeah, you're paying like 40 or 50% on top in tax. And, that's the sort of thing that will have to go by the way, because there's no second place in AI. And the only way you can be in contention even is by having vast energy supplies. That's why Trump was going on about energy last night.
Right, but in order to build out a 5x grid, I mean, that's an immense investment in critical infrastructure that requires so many raw materials and so much manpower and labor in an already fragile supply chain. Putting that all together in 5 to 10 years seems like a pipe dream.
Well, it might be a pipe dream, but they're going to try. And right. At the end of the day, they're not just going to sit there and talk about it. They're going to try. And therefore, all the people involved in that effort, successful or otherwise, are going to become much more valuable. And as an onlooker, you can buy their stock. You can buy copper. You can buy aluminium. You can buy, computer cooling companies. You can buy companies that make nuclear power plants. You can buy all that. It's open in the market, and a lot of it still cheap. But when you go looking for it, you'll see that it's gone off the handle in the last few months. Funny that. Now, the way to protect yourself in this instance is to take advantage of what's coming up next, success or failure. Is to preempt it and to put some of your money down and ride that wave, however foolish you might think it is.
Well, I guess there's another consideration here, is that we're already at ecological tipping points on many places around the world, whether it's drought, wildfires, things like this. If we're really truly going to boil the oceans and imagine this world where there will be unintended consequences that are going to be outside of our control. I feel as though that this is going to end badly. For, like, if we just think that we can completely, throw caution to the wind and just, I realize that we have no choice because it's a war between nation states, between corporations, between very wealthy, eccentric individuals who want to build their own individual AIs. But at the same time, there's going to be a tragedy of the commons event that likely brings a reality check to the market.
Well, first of all, let me say this. It's not we, it's them. Okay? So let's get that clear. There's nothing you can do about it. It's them. It's going to happen. Yes, it will have big consequences, for sure. But if you don't engage to optimize at your own personal and family position in what's coming up, you'll be in a lot worse position, whatever happens, good or bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not about agreeing with it. I'm not for or against it. It's what is going to happen. And there is not enough copper. So if you have a leverage on copper, you will do very, very well. So, if people want to do very, very well, that's fine. If they want to perish because they didn't, sync up with what was coming next. That's what preppers do. They go, this is what's going to happen. Oh, this is how we have to position ourselves. That's got to be the core. And this is about preparing for what is coming up next. First of all, imagining what it could be, first, then working out whether it's going to happen, getting a good model, and then positioning yourself, preparing yourself, and actually prospering, not merely surviving, but prospering in it. And, there's going to be a huge, huge change in the next 10, 15 years, and a vast amount of opportunity to be missed or to be taken.
I 100% agree with you about that. I'm not a pie in the sky kind of person. I think it's just important that while we encourage people to position themselves accordingly, to just add that caveat that, well, there might actually be some consequences to this. Not that we can control it, but just expect that also. And then, I think a prudent long-term investor would also think of, okay, so there's going to be all these consequences as a result of doing this stuff. What is going to be required to mitigate that? And then looking just
there's
a little
huge money
bit
in
further.
that. Mitigation is huge. That's where I live. I live in mitigation, environmental mitigation. That's why I was all over platinum and palladium early on. Yeah, mitigation is going to be massive. Massive, massive. And, I'm happy to be in the mitigation zone because, there's good karma, isn't it? But consequence is huge. Absolutely huge, huge. Humanity changing consequences. This is all, everybody knows that. And the point is to be on the right side of history.
Yeah. And I agree with you 100% that regardless of what we would like to see happen, it's going to happen because there's a war, materialist resource war element to this, and countries are going to just put the pedal to the metal as the Thucydides trap gets triggered with China. So maybe you could talk a little bit more about what you envision happening between China and Taiwan, when you see it happening, and how that relates to the gold prices going up. And feel free to talk a little bit about the supposed rift between the EU and the United States, which I have my own opinions on, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I spent a lot of time in Europe. Europe's great. Yeah. And it's been in this cozy relationship for a very long time. And America is saying, you sort out your bit. We're sorting out our hemisphere, and our conflict is in Asia. So we're not fighting on two fronts. Yeah, it's standard military thinking. Don't fight on two fronts. So Putin, your problem. China, our problem. So, there you are, trying to make it absolutely clear, trying to be frosty with Europe. So Europe gets the idea that the cozy relationship is over, which is, effectively what the European leaders said yesterday. The cozy relationship is over. We've got to, pull in our horns and get on with it ourselves. And Europe, United States of Europe, it's debatable whether Europe or America is richer, because the dollar is too high, it's coming down. And if it came down 10, 15, 20% against the euro, GDP would be similar. So, they're equally powerful blocks, effectively. But Europe has had a little brother and relationship with American big brother, and America saying, get off, get off my bike and get on with your own life. And they will. So that will be good. That'll
But
be
there
good.
is a risk there, right? That we're seeing also with Canada, in that there's a power vacuum that then gets filled. As soon as the Americans pull back, the Chinese potentially move in, as has been the case. At least that's how it appears on the surface. The relationship that Carney is trying to engage with the Chinese. And it seems
He's
like
controlling
if
the
the
control.
US extricates itself from Europe financially and militarily, doesn't that create a vacuum that the Chinese can fill?
Carney, in my book, is just trolling the troll. Okay, if you get bullied, you find somebody who's also pretty tough, and you make friends with him instead, right? So he's just positioning. Hey, stop! Cut it out! Cut this
Right.
out! All right, if you're not going to cut it out, we're going to go get chummy with your enemy, and it's just mucking about, right? It's always so much messing around. What happens with Taiwan is penciled into the diary for 2027. And some people say it won't happen. Some people say it might happen. Some people say it will. I think what is more likely is that there will be some kind of standoff between America and China in 2027, and that doubts about the seriousness of the situation that may or may not be held will go away.
Why
Yeah, so
2027? Why is everybody saying 2027? I know that's what the NATO generals are saying, but why are they saying that? Are you?
it's because they watched your show and I said it on it. Now, the reason 27 is she, as I meant to pronounce him, said it. He said to the PLA in one of those public statements, and a lot of these people, they lay it out. They absolutely, and as America's done, it's lay it out clear, and no one believes them. They go, oh, they shot it. That don't mean that. No, that doesn't mean that. No. He said, PLA, be ready 2027. You must have readiness by 2027. Now, what is that readiness for? The World Cup? I don't think so. So the implication is by 2027, you must be ready for fill in the blank, invading Taiwan or taking Taiwan. Okay. Now, obviously, maybe they're not ready in 2027. Maybe it's 2028. Maybe they are ready and they go, oh, maybe we shouldn't do that. Change their mind. Maybe something's done between then and now. But that is the pencil date in the diary, 2027. And whether there would be a stand, because they'll be able to see it coming, right? There'll be all this kit on the shore in China, and they'll see the build up, because it would be a massive operation. They'd see the build up, and then you get lots and lots and lots and lots of movement happening. So it's basically it's in the diary. Something's going to happen.
I'm not sure if you know, but there was recently a post that I had seen that was talking about the amassing of Chinese fishing vessels and how they're using these kind of covert systems that they could potentially use to do some sort of amphibious troop transport across the strait, but under the guise of either cargo ships or fishing vessels. So like you say, we're going to see it coming, but it's Chinese military doctrine to be very quiet. And right now they are being quite quiet. The only one talking is Trump every single hour of the day. And we hear nothing about the plans of China. We just see them periodically doing an exercise. And it's like they're not broadcasting anything, it seems.
They made it very clear. And they're building bases all over the area. It's not as if they're, it's a secret and they said they're not going to do it. They built the ships that go up on legs so they can land their troops on top of cliffs. I mean, you could go see that. I call them cliff climbing ships. It's not strictly the case, but it's ships that are on these legs so they can come into the harbor, plant the legs, and put these ramps on top of the cliffs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, I wonder what you want them for. It's out there. It doesn't. All you've got to do is believe what the people have said. In the same way as when your Secretary of Defense is now the Secretary of War. Just listen to that. That's all you need to hear. He's now the Secretary of War. I mean, what do you want? What do you want? Do you want a personal letter saying what's going to happen? I mean, it's as clear as day. And
Right.
everything that happens that doesn't make any sense, it all leads back to an American versus China conflict of one shape or the other. That's why gold is going up. Why else is it going up? There's been the death of the dollar that I've been reading about since I was a little child. Yeah, the dollar might go to nothing in the next 30 years, but that's not why gold's gone off the handle, etc., etc. That's not why they want to build the Golden Dome on Greenland. That's not why they're, getting Intel and buying into Intel and buying chunks of rare earth miners, and why they're telling Nvidia to onshore their blooming chip making. I mean, even last night he said, "Oh, I think Trump said something about all our chips get made on Taiwan. That's not good." I mean, it's
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
if you're an ostrich.
Scott Bessent reiterated the concern about the Taiwanese chip production, which some people, I think, have presumed mistakenly that a lot of this stuff is being onshored, but it's going to take many, many years. And if there is
Sure.
a short window in which China does have an advantage, because that really is the only, I wouldn't say the only, but one of the big reasons why the United States has to protect Taiwan, because it's integral to the AI arms race. If they lose Taiwan, then China could potentially win the AI arms race. Would you agree with
Yeah,
that?
might have already won it.
You think they?
So yes, absolutely, absolutely. And again, if you actually think about the logic of why they would care, well, China's our mates. We don't care whether they make all our chips. They're our friends. We're all friends. We're not in a conflict with them. They'll make them. Oh yeah, we do lots of AI slot with it. Yeah. No, it's not that at all, is it? If you're an ostrich, and I know your audience isn't, you can see it's as plain as the nose on your face. And from an investment point of view, that's where one would be looking, right? You wouldn't be looking at Disney with tourist areas and people that do tourism and consumer cyclicals. You're looking at people that build nuclear power stations, people that build, that dig up copper, people that do things that are military based. And on what America needs for reindustrialization. And when you go looking, you'll find they've all gone up a lot over
Oh
the
yeah,
last
all
6
the
months.
rare earth stocks are just have exploded in the last year.
Well, no, there's people that make cables.
Hmm.
Yeah, people that make dull stuff that you thought, well, why have they gone up? People that good old fashioned industrial companies that make things that people need to do infrastructure. It's all gone up a load. They've gone from being very unpopular to suddenly in fashion.
So you said that you think that silver is entering the mania phase. Can you maybe
Yeah.
elucidate that position that you think that it's toppy right now?
Well, your viewers will be buy and hold crew, okay, and that's a good way to go in any event, unless what you're holding is up like a rocket, down like a rock, and never comes back. And that's not silver. What's happened is silver has run ahead of gold a lot, and it will probably pull back quite a long way. But gold will carry on grinding up, so it will get a second wind, after that pullback, that crash, it will get a second wind, and then in 9 months, a year, we'll do another run, because it's basically the hard to say, frothy precious metal, and it's the fast horse. Yeah, it's the nervous horse as well. So it's got a lot more spring in it, so silver can look a lot more like a trade than an investment. Whereas gold is just going clunk, 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 and will continue to do so for at least another year, maybe two. And 8,000 is not off the cards at all, and even 10, and God forbid 12. So it will go through 5,000, highly likely, relatively soon, and it will keep going. And then suddenly FOMO will strike, and there'll be queues around the block to buy silver coins, and up silver will go again. But right now, I think it's had its, maybe a bit more to go. But
Yeah.
the move over $100 is a primary move, and then there'll be a pullback, and it will languish, and then a year or two later it will go again. But that's all down to gold. Gold is the one. Gold is the metal that defines everything else. If gold was to slump, silver would come down like a rock.
So what do you make of the silver zealots argument that, well, it's been subdued and manipulated for many years, and that it's only catching up to where it should be because there's that industrial demand. There is the potential use for it in not only photovoltaics, but these new batteries that are coming out, as well as a variety of other applications in the military sector, as well as now being pursued as an economic safe haven. Doesn't that create the conditions that would justify the current valuations?
Well, I'd say no. But the point is, at what price does that not apply? And it's somewhere between $28, where it took off, and $500, where even the most fanatical silver person tends to draw the line. There is a price for silver, which is the top. It always is. Trees don't grow to the skies. And I think it's around 100. It could be 200. It absolutely could be 200. But the 200 level would reflect the market corner of Bunker Hunt thing back in the late 70s, early 80s. I can't remember exactly when it was, Bunker Hunt. And if you scaled the silver price to that period, that's $200. So that's a really big stretch. 100 was a stretch at $30, because if people didn't think so, they would have, everyone would have bought it at that price. Yeah. But where we are is stretched. Yeah. And I think there's maybe a little bit more Luft, as the Germans say in it. But, I think I flipped out half my silver at 95. Okay. And
in 95? Oh, at 95?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you said in 95. I was like, damn,
No, at 95. And I'll be probably out. I might change my plans, but I'll probably be out 105. And then I would expect it maybe to go a bit more, or maybe quite a lot more, 120 or something like that, and then pull back a long way and then rest. And then if gold keeps grinding up, it'll go back up there or even further. So it's all down to gold. It's all down to gold. And look, if you want me to make a really bullish case for silver, very simple. They make 3,000 tons of gold a year, and they make 25,000 tons of silver. That's 8-to-1 ratio. So if you want to go to La La Land, say, oh, it's 8-to-1 manufacturing. Oh, it should be 8-to-1 with gold. That's $500 an ounce. Right there. But by the time, by the time it got anywhere near that, gold would probably be 8,000. So it would be $1,000 an ounce. But it never works out like that. Well, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's very, very unlikely. So, silver, just look at the chart. It was absolutely tracking gold for years and years and years, and suddenly it's run right ahead of gold. And I would imagine it's going to pull back to sync up with gold at some point. And not.
But isn't there a strategic stockpiling military element to it, though, which kind of is very similar to your gold is for war? I mean, silver is also nowadays in the artificial intelligence age also for war. They need it for the data centers. They need it for the renewable energy, particularly in China. Although copper is a substitute, but it doesn't make as efficient panels, I'm told. But it's in demand in the same way that gold is reflective. So if there is an industrial component and the price has been artificially suppressed by the paper markets, then shouldn't it be expected that it should catch up and that ratio gap closed?
Okay, there's an argument for 40-to-1. There's an argument for 20-to-1. Look, in my book, there's an old story, right? When the Americans pulled out of the Philippines, the Second World War, they took the gold, put it on a battleship, they threw the silver in the bay. Okay, so silver is not for war. They threw the silver in the bay.
It wasn't then, but we're living in the artificial intelligence
about the long-term history of these things. But yeah, I mean, you can always say, yeah, well, please, can it go up, please? But
like they didn't use silver in Tomahawk missiles back then and photovoltaics.
No, you used it in pocket change, and everybody had silver in their pockets. So it was actually money in those days. So there was how much of that was tied up in pocket change would be huge quantities of it. So, but anyway, the point is with silver is, I believe it's toppy, but for your crowd, they're not traders. They're buy and holders. And silver as a buy and hold is fabulous. I wouldn't knock that at all. It's only going to be, if and when it pulls back, it's only going to be short to medium term, not long term. It's a precious metal. It will remain a precious metal. It will remain in demand. But you talk about stockpiling. It's all being stockpiled. Every single one of these hard commodities is being stockpiled, and all the prices are going up at the same time because everybody and their uncle is stockpiling. Companies are stockpiling, countries are stockpiling. Everybody's stockpiling right now, and that's another thing to bear in mind. So if you get a chart of all the, copper, zinc, aluminium, nickel, and put them all together, they're all going up the same. Why are they all going up the same? Preppers are not going out and buying a load of nickel. They're not, or zinc,
Too heavy.
or aluminium.
Some foolish people are buying copper bullion now.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a big enough cupboard to put it in, why not? But I mean, it's not very liquid. It's liquidity that's the key with these things, and obviously nothing better than gold and silver for liquidity.
Yeah, we haven't quite entered the phase of, I'm not sure, have you ever seen the show Trailer Park Boys?
I don't have a television, that's why I'm so rich.
It's a Canadian show. It's great, Schadenfreude, if you're ever like feeling bad about yourself. So these guys are, always hard up for money, so they like go into old houses and they strip all the copper pipes and stuff like that, and then they sell it. That I think that's how we'll know if we're in a copper top.
Well, I think they're doing that with Tesla rechargers, aren't they? They're chopping the cables off.
Are they doing that already?
Yeah. But I think
that sounds dangerous.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, I think that's purely for that. It's only people on crystal meth that go to those lengths.
Right. They don't care. They're immune to the high voltage blast. Okay, so you were talking about some other metals there. That was interesting to me because I think, while the focus is on the big precious metals, you talked about things like nickel, aluminum. Are these things that are going to be continuing to go up? And do you have any other plays that you're looking at right now in the metal space or just commodities in general?
For me, to keep it simple, it's copper. There's great copper mines out there, big copper mines, which you can, buy stock in. You can get ETFs in physical. I mean, if you really do want copper bars, you can go out and get them. I mean, it's like anything. Liquidity is a very valuable thing, and the ability to get in and out of something fast and get paid out is important. I don't think copper bars in a garage, unless you live right next to a recycler or a consumer, is really going to help you that much. It's going to be awkward, right? But anyway, copper. I love copper. Aluminium's doing it, but there's a lot of aluminium in the world, and aluminium is basically pure energy. To make aluminium, you basically have to melt a mountain, and the amount of energy you have to put into it means that it's a function of the energy you require, which, but it's gone up. Okay, right. Zinc. I'm very interested in zinc. I haven't got any, but I keep an eye on it. And nickel. Nickel's also another one. I can't remember which one. It's either nickel or zinc. There's a real issue with demand on it because they basically can't make enough of it if the demand goes up. I think it's actually zinc, but people have to check up on that one. So all these metals, because look, basically you're going to get this economic boom. Most people will disagree with that, but there you go. And it will. AI in its own will be its own economic boom, and it will suck in all these commodities. And these commodities, when you actually work out how much of the thing that you buy in a shop is a commodity contains in there, it's nothing. It's nothing. The actual materials that go into making stuff that we buy at prices, it's actually a very small proportion of the overall cost, which means that those suckers can move a long way before anybody notices it at the retail shelf end. So that's actually quite interesting because it means that these things can run a long way before everyone starts to squeal.
Yeah, like there's only, even if there is a kilo of silver in a Tesla, which I don't think it's that much, based, as a proportion of the entire cost of the Tesla, it's not that much. So
a kilo would be $3,200, but I don't think it's anywhere near a kilo. But yes,
I think it's several ounces or something.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, copper, right? How much copper in your iPhone? Very little, but it's there and it's in everything. And if it tripled, what would it put on the price of that item? Very little. So there's a lot of these. I put it this way: they'll stop being commodities, and at some point they'll start being luxuries. But that's a long way up in terms of price. Yeah, and it's just not going to be that they won't be able to produce enough of it, but they won't be able to produce enough of it fast enough. Yeah, and there'll be all sorts of capitalistic, wonderful things that will come up because of it. That will mean you need so much less of it, or you can fold it that way, or you can push it this way. But nonetheless, it still will mean that commodities will have very elevated prices, and it won't be overnight. It'll just go chunk, 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 chunk. It'll just grind and grind and grind and grind and grind, which is what you want, because what you don't want is what silver just did, which is go vertical, because that kind of means you're in a crazy non-sustainable market. And
Do you
you
think
could
that?
look at gold and say,
Do you think that I'm not sure how familiar you are with the AI YouTube channels that are kind of pumping that stuff? It seems like that these AI. Are you familiar with the AI Asian guy?
I no, in a
Okay,
word.
it hasn't hit you yet. Then that's interesting. So maybe it
Well, I mean,
hasn't.
I do my own research generally, and everybody, all I bump into is doomsters, and yeah, it's a very potent way of making traffic and making money from clicks, but I see it as the direct opposite.
Well, just to fill you in, there is this, it's not one YouTube channel, it is one AI avatar, and it's an Asian guy with glasses and speaks in a very neuro-linguistically hypnotizing way. And this one avatar is used on so many different YouTube channels, and the views that these guys get are in the hundreds of thousands per video. And it seems like this is, as a whole, it's really kind of adding to the mania. Like you have high profile commentators referencing these accounts, so it's not nothing. I think it's a big $3 trillion market, obviously, but I think that's, if that's not a sign that there is a mania element to this, that a lot of people are listening to this AI. They know it's AI, and you can Google it after we're done here, so you know what I'm talking about, so you're up to speed. And they believe it. The like to dislike ratio is very good, as if it's a real person. And so people are listening to this AI for advice, more so than actual real commentators like you and me, which is crazy to think.
Well, I mean, most commentators I hear, I think I would prefer to take AI advice, frankly.
That's fair. That's fair. But I still think it's a sign of the times, that
Well,
it's almost like
it's
a weird sort of feedback loop, because we're talking about the AI bubble, but it's being pumped by AI avatars. We're talking about the AI boom, and it's like this circular Ouroboros.
I'll let you into a secret. Okay. AI is all about feedback loop. AI will ingest what we are saying now, and it will be part of that model. I'm
Right.
already ingested by AI. You can go onto an AI and say, tell me about this in the voice and style of Clem Chambers, and it will tell you in my style and my voice, and it will probably give you exactly what I would say, because I'm already ingested thousands of articles for Forbes, that lots and lots of videos, lots of these. It's ingested it all. It's all there. I'm immortal within the AI right now, but it's a feedback loop, because it comes back out and everybody looks at it, and then they come up with stuff, and then the AI ingests it. I mean, think about that. That
Yeah.
is, some people find that terrifying, but I find that very, very exciting.
Yeah, it's like I had a bad visual there, but it's like eating something, vomiting it up, and then eating it again, doing that 50,000
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. What you've got to understand is AI needs us. Yeah. Because
I'm,
we elevate it,
yeah.
and it will elevate us. And that's great. And a lot of people will say, what an idiot. What is he talking about? It's the end of the world. Well, better hope I'm right, eh?
Well, I mean, there's a component of that, though. There's an argument that says, well, once we hook it up and we give it its own tentacles through which it can sense and do experiments and act as though it's a living thing in the world, that maybe it won't be reliant on us as much.
Well, let me give you another secret. Okay. We're carbon. It's silicon. Yeah. Silicon can't do random. Carbon can. That's why animals are carbon based, not silicon based. So it needs our carbon interaction with the quantum level
Don't tell
to
it that.
actually.
You realize the risk of telling it that it needs our carbon, right?
It knows it needs us. Of course, it knows it needs us. Yeah, it's silicon. It can't do random. It can't make shit up. Pardon me. It has to have the wet monkeys. We're the experiment.
right? So, have you ever seen Ex Machina, the movie?
No, no,
You
no.
should go watch it tonight. You should watch it. You'll like it.
Is that when some babe who's AI goes on a rampage and kills everybody?
Um, well, I don't want to ruin it for you, but it that's close. It doesn't quite tell that whole story, but it tells part of it for sure.
Yeah, only humans could make that up.
Hey, who knows what's going to happen with that? Anyways, you had talked recently about big tech, and you stimulated some thought around how that could be weaponized and how that factors in here. It was a thought you made in passing on one of your recent videos where you said that big tech firms could potentially pull out or, weaponize their services inside various countries, or other countries like European countries could potentially, kick out like X or whatever companies like
Sure,
that, and that
sure.
could be something that creates fractures in the markets.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you really got roughed up by America and a particular person in America, and you thought, right, I'm going to stick it to them, you just cut off Microsoft and cut off Google and cut off Facebook. Well, Facebook and Google, because they're the ones that are least vital. I mean, China has been trying to cut off Microsoft now for many years, and they've worked really hard to be able to cut off Microsoft, and they probably will manage it in the next 5 years. You can look that up. Yeah, and ultimately, the Mag 7, a lot of the Mag 7 is really quite reliant on peace and stability. So, chaos and instability, you don't have the sort of valuations you're getting in the NASDAQ and in the Dow right now. So that is a major fragility. And I will be watching it. And, it's they're already going to cut kids under 16 off for social media. That's going to happen. It's happened in Australia. It will happen in Europe pretty soon, maybe even in America. And, if you go to Russia or China, you ain't got no Facebook. Maybe I think you might have Facebook in Russia, and they've got their own equivalents. They just cut them off. No, you cut, your IP can't come in here, and cut them off. Gone, right? And well, what would that do to if WhatsApp went away and Instagram went away and Facebook went away in Europe? What would that do to their share price? Nothing good.
Wouldn't that be kind of like cutting off your nose to spite your face if you're a European country that is probably still quite heavily reliant on a lot of these systems? Like I'm certain that there are a lot of infrastructure systems that use these technologies, these big seven tech companies, that they can't because they're now dependent on them.
Well, it's not a big deal to replace Instagram. It's not a big deal to replace WhatsApp. It's a bit of a heave for Google probably, but who uses Google right now?
Or like Amazon Web Services, Oracle, things that are kind of that set the substrate.
If you go out to some big companies and say, look, you want to build Bilbo's web services here, we're going to be cutting off Amazon and Microsoft in the next 12 months, get building. I should think that'll work. I mean, it's China, right? That's what they've done in China. And if you look at Russia, they've got all these parallel services. They've got parallels to Facebook. They've got parallels to WhatsApp. They've got parallels to pretty much the whole American internet infrastructure. And, why can't a continent, or whatever you want to call it, with 500 million people in and $30,000 a head GDP, do the same? Particularly if you've got a government saying, go on, do it. I mean, you can't, if you get retaliation, I mean, the Europeans haven't retaliated, but if they were going for retaliation, that would be for the throat, right? Because if American stock market crashes, that's it for the US. It's all over then.
But isn't that also, like, because of the globalization aspect of that, doesn't that also hurt a lot of foreign investment which comes from Europe? Because a large part of the U.S. stock market is propped up by foreign investment.
Look, conflict hurts everybody, right? Hardly anybody ever wins out of conflict. Yeah, and if you go around stirring up conflict, I mean, as the Californian governor said, if you're a wrecking ball, well, you wreck, don't you? Yeah, and at some point, it only takes one person on the other side to say, no, forget, we're not having that. Yeah, and then you've got a conflict, and yeah, of course, everybody's poorer off for it. Everybody's worse off for it. We absolutely, it's a terrible thing, which is why the Europeans have taken so long to wake up to this new way of doing things, because it would have never been like that. As a national leader would never, even of an enemy, would never go around and insult the national leaders of other countries. I mean, not the Russians would have never have done it. Even Fidel Castro wouldn't have done it to American leaders. Nobody does that back then. It's such a new way of doing business that it's taken, well, at least a year for Europe to catch up and go, oh, hold on a minute. This is real. Oh, what? No. And you heard them say it at Davos. You heard them coming out of their mouths, out of Macron's mouth, out of Carney's mouth, out of other leaders saying, oh, and that's what America wants them to do. That America wants Europe to cut itself loose. And it's a very brave strategy. Mm-hmm. And it probably will work. And it'll be great for Europe, I think. Absolutely great.
Yeah, I've heard it said that it's what they're setting the stage for is a division of labor, in that the U.S. needs to focus on China and quite possibly Iran in the next few weeks, and that they need the Europeans to fight the war with Russia. How do you see the war with Russia playing out? And I'm not sure how familiar you are with the situation, but do you feel that that's going to be resolved this year, or is it just going to continue grinding on?
Okay, if you want to know, there's a very simple way of finding out. There's a company called Fair Expo. It's one of the biggest, highest quality iron ore mines in the whole of the world. It just shuttered its operation because it ran out of electricity. Its share price is all over the place. But if you want to know whether the conflict is coming to a conclusion, just watch the share price. And if it starts to go like that, you'll know peace is coming. If it just keeps doing that, it ain't coming. And
Fair
if it does
Expo?
Fair Expo, yeah, listed in London.
And what is that company?
Gigantic iron ore mine, high grade, one of the highest grade iron ore mines in the world.
Okay,
and its iron ore deposit is far enough away from the trouble for it to be not worthless, and because they've taken out so much electricity over the last week or two, they announced that they furloughed all their workers and they've stopped production.
Well, is that because of the natural gas crisis right now, though?
No, it's just Russia keeps blowing up all the infrastructure, and
is that in Ukraine, Fair Expo?
Yeah, in Ukraine, yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that if that stock or they start producing again, that's a bullish signal?
Only if the stock goes. If the stock starts to run, you'll know that peace is approaching. The likelihood of peace is directly proportional to the height of the share price.
Okay, I'm going to have to research that after to see if there's correlations.
I'm just making it up. I'm just making it up, Nate. It's all lies.
Come on, give us something. Give us something we can sink our teeth into here. We want to know. We want to know. We want to know if the shit's going to hit the fan. That's what we want to know.
Well, just watch their share price.
Okay. So if the share price plummets, that means that it's bad news.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
And if it goes through the roof, peace is on the way. Or people who know about it being on the way think it's on its way, and they're kind of getting their juice lined up. And of course, it doesn't mean it will go. But that is the thermometer for peace or war in Ukraine. If you want to have one, you wanted me to tell you what was going to happen, and I've given you the indicator. And you don't think that you don't want to get your teeth into that. You don't think, God, that's a gem, man. It's an absolute gem.
No,
you won't see that on CNN.
It's a novel explanation. That's definitely members only quality material. But
it's exactly the sort of thing you get on my members channel on my YouTube, Clem Chambers Alpha. That's exactly what sort of thing that I talk about there. And if your audience isn't going, oh, wow, I'd be most surprised.
Today, I'm not sure if you heard, Macron said that the French had intercepted another Russian shadow tanker. This seems to be all the rage nowadays, confronting Russia on the high seas. Isn't that going to escalate things?
Well, I mean, I think if Russia could do more, it would have done more. I mean, it's flat out, isn't it? Slaughtering its own people and slaughtering Ukrainians. I'm sure if they could slaughter some more, they would. If they're not flat out, what are they holding back for?
Well, they don't want all-out nuclear Armageddon.
Well, no, nobody does. There's only 2 cities in Russia worth a damn. And if they got taken out, there would be no Russians, give or take. It's only St. Petersburg and Moscow in terms of population. That's it. 2 big cities. I mean, I can only guess, but I can tell you when I see that share price go up or down big time, you can say that that's a very good indicator. Because let's just say they aren't the most ethically unchallenged group of people out there, and if they think they can turn a few million by buying shares in an iron ore company in Ukraine because good news is coming, they will buy it.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Well, that's fascinating information. We don't agree on everything, but we agree on some things.
We're making a statement here. Got to be shouting at each other. Come on, this is North American media.
Okay, so for my doomer audience who just loves to be in the dark, can you give us your bear case? You've given us the utopian case. The robots, butlers are coming, and the wars are going to hopefully run their course. What is the bearish case here? What should we be prepping for?
Okay, there's two. There's one very simple one, and there's one where people are going to scratch their head and think I'm mad. And what the hell is he talking about? There's two pathways ahead, right? There's NS and AI. And AI, we know what that is. NS is natural stupidity, and there's no short supply of that. And probably your audience is so fed up with natural stupidity in the world, that's why they're preppers. Okay, and that can take us to Armageddon for sure. I don't have a load of gold, silver, platinum, or palladium because I think it's going to be, la 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 land. Yeah, that's one road. I personally think that AI is going to solve that problem, and thank goodness for that, because there is no shortage of NS, and it's escalating. Okay, so that is my strategic view. And if the AI thing don't work out, then yeah, kaboom. Now, if we go back sideways a little bit from that, we've got a situation where if, say, ex-allies, which is the world now thinks that America basically has no allies, if they really got, upset, they could do serious damage to the American stock exchange, and they could crash the American bond market because they've got all that stuff. And they could, the bond market's secondary, right? Because the Fed will just buy it back in confetti and say, thank you very much. So that's not so much of an issue, but you can definitely crash the NASDAQ by cutting off the Mag 7. It would definitely crash because those valuations are so enormous, so priced for perfection, so priced for peace and stability that they are getting increasingly fragile, soft at the moment. And if Europe came out and went, we're cutting off you guys, you've got 16 months and you're gone. Yeah, we're going to cut off WhatsApp tomorrow. We're going to cut off X. Who cares? Cut off X, and then we're going to cut off Facebook. We're going to cut off Instagram, and we're going to cut off Pinterest, and we're going to cut off cut. Even if they just said it, if they did a Donald Trump, didn't mean it, changed my mind. If they just said it, all the American propaganda infrastructure that you call social media, it's going away over the next 24 months. That'll crash the NASDAQ. And then, because if you think about it, America's financialized itself. Mm-hmm. All its assets are in its stock market. You cut that in half, America's half as wealthy overnight. And no coming back. Yeah, the only way to make it come back would be through very high inflation. Well, that's game over. So there you go. If you want to think about that, and it's a possibility, but what you'd have to do is you have to watch to see whether it starts to happen, because it wouldn't be overnight. You see little cracks appearing. You see, it's like the teachers that say children can't learn off computers. Yeah. What are they saying that for? Well, because they're all going to get fired in the next 10 years, and they want to make an excuse why they can't be fired because, kids can't learn off computers. No, it makes them stupid. No, you don't want to get rid of us. Yeah, all those little reels of consequence will start to appear. But I don't think that will happen. I think we're just going to go on this road of ever increasing global tension, which will drive gold and primary metals and reindustrialization, and all those industries that were very unpopular are going to start to get popular. And people that make nuclear power stations will go ape, copper will go ape, and the precious metal will carry on grinding up, and the military defense contractors will grind. I mean, you saw the thing that Trump said. Hey, CEOs of defense companies, you're not going to get paid the big bucks, and you're not going to deliver this stuff late. You're not going to do buybacks. You are going to do what I tell you. Well, why did he say that for? Who's bothered about that up until now? Why is he suddenly bothered about that? Answers on a postcard. America versus China. It comes back to that over and over and over again. And everything connected to that is going to get more valuable. And you can ride that wave and, be very, very prosperous.
Very straightforward advice. Clem, thanks again for coming on. I look forward to your next video and your next sensationalist thumbnail that will surely one up my thumbnails. You're getting good with that. I got to try that. I've never been, one for the shocking, facial expression thumbnails, but they seem to be working. So keep it up, I guess.
And I look forward to your members channel, like my members channel, where you can talk about the really more spicy stuff that you don't really want the world of Muppets to hear, and only your hardcore audience that really know what they're talking about will be, good enough to get that gen, because that's what I've got on my channel. The sophisticated stuff, the stuff not for a general audience, the stuff for people that know really what they're talking about. They come for that. And it's a small group, well, it's actually quite a big group of people now. But that is a different set of content, and it's perfect for your audience because there's some real exciting. I could be a prepper. I love all the kit. I love all the 2 years of food. I love all the how to make a bow and arrow. I love all that stuff. And some stuff that really is not suitable for a general audience. And I look forward to your members channel coming on and seeing behind the curtain.
Well, you've encouraged me to maybe take a look at it. I've always been reluctant with paywalls because personally, I hate having 50 different charges on my account every month that I accumulate by adding all these subscriptions. But I will consider it for sure. So,
for sure, there's stuff that you can't put out for a general audience. There's surely stuff that's just simply not commercial, or for that matter, suitable for a general audience. It's like a trade publication. Yeah, it's like just between USA Today and Chemical World. It's for the hardcore, and it talks to them in a language they understand that the general audience wouldn't. That's what I do anyway.
Yeah, we're in a kind of a populist political season right now, and rage merchants are the ones who are kind of garnering all the attention. So general prepping advice, which used to be the more, PG, broad audience appeal, is kind of taking the back seat. So those are all the videos that I have in queue that I haven't released yet because people just aren't interested. They want to either play into the political drama. Obviously, as you can tell with the situation unfolding in the United States right now with the civil unrest there, that's what has people's attention. So, we just got to wait out the season, I suppose, and see what happens.
Well, all those ones that you got in the back pocket, which are all about prepping for people that want to, that's exactly the sort of thing to put in a membership channel. Absolutely. Because, you want that. You want an environment without the noise, right?
Well, guys, if I make a membership channel, you know who to blame. It's Clem Chambers. Go and subscribe to his YouTube channel, and always insightful, man. I genuinely enjoy hearing your takes on things. So thanks again for coming out today.
See you again soon, I hope. And, if people want to pop over to Clem Chambers Alpha on YouTube and listen to some of my videos, I'll be very happy. We've got all sorts of interesting investment concepts over there. So see you there.
Sounds good. Take care, buddy.
See you, man.
The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com, where you'll find high-quality survival gear at the best prices, no junk, and no gimmicks. Use discount code PREPPINGGEAR for 10% off. Don't forget, the strong survive, but the prepared thrive. Stay safe.